Winters. The star of the musical Evita, Loni Ackerman. From the film The Baltimore Bullet, Bruce Boxleitner. And an on-location interview with actor Jackie Chan and our own reporter, Bob Osborne. And now, here's Dinah!
Bid you welcome. You are in for a treat today. You have already made it a treat for me by this warm welcome, which I accept because I really have something to give you in return. We have a marvelous show with fascinating people, and I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman now who is going to help me in the proceeding. Hi, over there. Are you lonely? You're not lonely. We'll be there in a minute. It's all right. They just didn't know the right people. You know, you have to... At any rate, this gentleman that you're about to meet he absolutely has total recall. That's what's so fascinating about him. You can ask him anything that's happened in the past or the present, possibly the future, and he will have an answer for you. Please welcome Charles Nelson Reilly. So chic.
No, I got it together. I'm getting better.
Yeah, will you go up and down? Every once in a while, you're absolutely...
I even wash a little lately. It's very frightening.
Yeah, the only shirt that was the day you come in with the sweatsuit. You know,
yeah. I have two now.
You have two sweatsuits.
No stopping me.
Yes, but you see, you have to wear the top that goes with the bottoms. You can't just mix them up. The orange
see, these
and
eyes, dear.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I got the top on the top, and the bottom on the bottom is the day.
Oh.
I'll get with it. I'm always going to do it tomorrow, and it might come on this show. It could all fall in place.
I think it has. I want to ask you something now. I told him that you had total recall because there's so many wonderful stories that pour out of you. Every time we do the show about various people. I want to find out what you remember about our first guest.
First time, 1950.
1950.
I was in summer stock in Newport, Rhode Island. There was a famous theater, the Casino Theater. In the summer, used to go $10 a week you went for 10 weeks. And she was playing at the other theater in Rhode Island, Matunic by the Sea, Born Yesterday. And it was her first important responsibility on the stage. It's 30 years ago. And everyone was saying there's this wonderful actress playing Born Yesterday at the other theater, and we used to drive by and see the posters.
30 years ago? I'm still adding.
It's 30 years ago.
Go ahead.
Isn't that nice? And she's wonderful, and I see her all the time like actors see each other, like we're very close and we love each other, and we meet like once in a while, you know? She's a wonderful woman. She's very alive, and she's just wonderful.
She doesn't need
And she's a wonderful actress.
She doesn't need any more introduction than that, but I feel like I know her so much better after having read her book. We're
it's a wonderful book.
Today. Shelley Winters.
dignified outfit.
Oh, there. Because you look wonderful. And you're the only one not carrying a book called Shelley, also known as Shirley. The only one sitting here on this little platform in front of all these people.
Look, you've got them.
Sure.
And you're reading them?
Yes, you're going to autograph them. I want you to show you. Listen, I played Catashaw and the Mikado, too.
Oh, did you?
We have so many things in common. You cannot believe it. I really am absolutely fascinated with the book. But before we get to the book, I wanted to introduce you to our beautiful audience who have some questions they'd like to ask you. You don't mind, do you?
No, not at all.
They're nice people.
First, may I say, this was 30 years ago, but I played that when I was 12.
We talked before. We arranged it.
I'm just teasing.
It wasn't 30 years ago. 1950 was.
Yes, it was.
1950 was.
No, come on, Shelley.
Okay.
1950s.
Last summer, I said.
That's better. That's better. Who has a question for Shelley? Yes.
Hi, my name is Cindy Gonzalez. I'm from Buena Park, and I'd like to know, what kind of people annoy you?
I think I do something very strange. When I'm not in front of the camera in a show, I think I'm invisible. Or something. I think I'm Shirley, and I expect people to treat me like I work in an office. It's my fault. So when people point to me or something, I'm in a restaurant, and say, I look around to see who they're pointing at.
You're not used to it yet?
I still am not. I'm very surprised when people come over and sort of treat me. I want them to, once in Rome, that's how I happened to really start on the book. Two people, ladies, came up to me, and it's a place where you get ice cream. And they said, Shelley. And nobody calls me Shelley Winters or Miss Winters. I don't know why, but they don't. And I said, hello. And I'm thinking, are they from St. Louis? What branch of the family? And they sat down with me, and we had ice cream together. And I'm thinking, are they from my father's side or my mother's side? Because they looked familiar. And we were together about a half an hour talking. And then at the end, I said, now, are you cousins of mine? Or they said, oh, no, we're just fans.
But that doesn't annoy you. What
No,
annoys you?
but I don't know. I think it doesn't, I was surprised. It doesn't annoy me, but I don't know. I think I wanted them to like me for me and not the sort of image that I spent my whole life creating of the blonde bombshell and all that nonsense.
I think we all want that. Somebody, you know, really to be recognized for ourselves. Who has another question?
Especially from our children.
Yes. Who?
Hi, I'm Joyce Cook from Beeville, Texas.
Oh.
I'd like to know, do you eat late at night in bed?
Good question.
Nothing is spared here, dear.
No.
You've put your finger on my nemesis. I diet all day long, and I eat everything on my diet. And I am slightly insomniac. I wish I could. They showed the doll shows at night, but unfortunately they show the old movies that I like at night.
The goodies, yeah.
And I have my diet food in the daytime, and then I have
The luxury.
peanut butter, graham crackers.
Milk, all the things you
Yes,
like.
that's my
Sure.
problem.
Oh, yeah. With me, it's pimento cheese and crackers and peanut butter and all.
Do you remember Pabst cheese? They don't make it anymore.
No, I don't remember that. Is that like
I do.
Velveeta?
Velveeta, but Pabst was round. Who remembers Pabst cheese? Anybody here?
Sure.
Yes.
Cheese.
see.
Okay, we probably have our version of it. It's called hamburger.
Well, it's sort of like Velveeta, but
Yeah.
different.
Yes, sir.
Miss Winters, I'm Philip Rossi from Sydney, Australia.
Well.
And I would like to know, has a leading man ever romanced you?
You mean who I was in a picture with?
You want to do alphabetically
Or just
order?
any? I mean, just any leading man or one that I was acting with?
Any leading man?
Just pick on any page.
Well, you have to buy the book.
That's a good line. It's your first time you've used that as an author. You'll have to buy the book.
No, well, I think there's some kind of silly notion in the world, or maybe it's not so much anymore. It used to be for the Photoplay magazine and so forth. In fact, that you were very virginal, and even if you got married and got a divorce, you returned to that state. They don't do that anymore. Remember how the movie magazines
I
were?
don't think they did it then either, but they
Yes,
said.
they did. But when you're in close proximity with very attractive, famous people, and you're sharing a dressing room, not sharing a dressing room, but you
You might as well be.
that you're
Wait a
in
minute,
dressing
that's
room
on page. Go ahead.
it's sort of inhuman to think that you're not going to be attracted by them, isn't it? I mean, if you had a dressing room next to, let's say, who are the sex symbols today? Farrah Fawcett on one side and, I don't know, Bo Derek on the other side. Are you married?
No.
Wow.
I'm looking, though. I'm looking.
Would you be faithful to your dream girl?
If they were on either side of you, I think you might have a couple of... Well, it's like shipboard romances. I mean, they're wonderful while the picture's on, and then afterwards, somehow or other, you
Yes.
go your way and they go
It's
theirs.
like
Yes.
summer stock. Wasn't
Yeah.
summer stock fun?
Yeah.
It's the heat of the East, and everything gets humid and exciting, and then September it's over.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Harry. And
Yeah,
then
see,
you
but
go-
I made the mistake a couple of times of marrying the people.
You know, think about actors.
Yeah, I used to. I used to.
You don't?
I've grown up now.
Oh. Oh, dear.
No, what I mean is,
that.
it's quite normal to fall in love with the person you're acting with, say, over at a picture 7 months or a long-run play, and you think, or I used to think, they are the character they're in the play. You know, no matter what you see after the curtain comes down, you really believe you're in that, 8 times a week, and you believe, and if they're playing a wonderful, good person, I used to do this. Yeah. I think I've stopped. I hope I've stopped. After 15 years of analysis, I think I know the difference between reality and make-believe. No, but it happens to actors because you're unconsciously drumming up for your scenes all the emotional things that you need, and it happens quite often, and then you get the reality confused. And I got married a couple of times like that. Only twice.
We're going to be right back with a lot more about Shelley Winters. He burst into laughter and the panel slid back into place. Damn it, I had dreamed it all. There wasn't much light from the movie, so how could I tell if the sheets were cream-colored? This is...
Yeah,
so, Mr. Flynn...
My sister's in the green room.
Oh, she hasn't read the book?
Yes, she read the book.
We're talking about Shelley Winters, also known as Shirley, and her fascinating book called Shelley, also known as Shirley. I've been fascinated because I've read the book and I found so many things that I empathize with. You just mentioned Blanche, your sister, who's in the green room. You're very close to her.
Yes.
She sort of helped raise you.
Well, she's not that much older than me, but when I came out here, I was a minor and she was 21.
That's right.
And so she it was during the Second World War, which was a little while ago, and toward the end of it. And they had passed a law called the California Gift to Minors because Jackie Coogan and Jackie Cooper there worked as children, made a lot of money, and somehow their money disappeared. So you had to save half of what you got. In those days, war bonds, and then later on, savings bonds. And also, an adult had to come with me. But in many ways, at that time, I was more sophisticated than Blanche. But after we were here 6 months, one day we sent for our mother and father. We called New York, and in fact, I told Marlon when he was coming out here, I said, bring your family.
Marlon Brando.
And he stayed with his grandmother in Silver Lake because the pressures you get for, at the beginning, you don't know how to respond to. So we called our mother and father because Blanche is a nurse and she was working in the psychiatric ward and she had very strange phone calls. And then I had a strange thing happen on the Goldwyn lot where you were a Goldwyn girl.
Yes.
And one night she picked me up and I was very frightened and then we called our parents. But the interesting thing is I went to Schwab's drugstore the next day and Sidney Skolsky came in with Marilyn. And I was eating everything in sight because I was frightened. I didn't have to work that day. And he said, what's the matter, Shelley? And I said, we're sending Blanche and I decided to send for our mother and father. And Marilyn I'd never seen anybody was playing with a straw. And you know when you push the paper down on a straw and then you put water on it and uncurls like a worm? I'd never seen anybody do that. And Marilyn was doing that. And she said, what'd you do? And I said, well, I sent for my mother and father. And she said, oh, I wish I had somebody to send for.
This is Marilyn Monroe, who was her roommate at the time.
Oh, I didn't say her last name.
Well,
So better.
but she was your roommate, and you felt very close to her.
Later, not then we weren't.
You had a happy experience, strangely enough, with Harry Cohn. Most people haven't. They have very few kind words to say. I liked Harry Cohn, but you had really, that was your first experience. You would call him on the phone at any hour.
Well, I never really understood what a head of a studio, that he was so important. I mean...
Well, he conducted your first test.
Yes, and it just didn't mean anything to me. I just thought he was sort of, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't have the awe of the heads of the studio. No. And now kids have it even more so. You know, I've done pictures when I see the kids start to shake when, Wasserman or somebody comes on the set. And he just seemed like a very nice man to me because he did my test, and then I was married to a lieutenant in Chicago who was a captain and a big hero, and we wrote to each other every day for 3 years, and when he came home, I found out he didn't want to live in Hollywood.
But Harry Cohn gave you some very interesting advice on that occasion, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that.
Oh, well, he was a very smart man, and he had, they tried to make me into sort of a sex goddess, like Marilyn, like Rita Hayworth, or I don't know, Linda Darnell then, or Ava Gardner, or you know, Lana Turner, and I just never could fit in there. I mean, they would make my hair pink or long eyelashes and big mouth, and I always looked funny, and it didn't come out right. Although Rita always tried to help me and got me to stand near her when I was in the chorus and stuff, and when we went to a New Year's Eve party, she picked out a dress for me. She was just divorcing Orson Welles. They're separated. Hasn't Orson Welles been on this show a lot?
Yes.
Yes, of course. You're all crazy backstage. You know, I was once in Florida when you were on 3 times in one day.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
I had the flu.
Yeah.
And you were on it at like 10 o'clock in the morning, at 2 in the afternoon, and then late at night.
Well, you know, life moves slowly in Florida.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was the same station, but one day Orson Welles was on 3 times with you.
What?
and I said, Orson Welles has been on the show a lot, and I'd like to do a show with him. And they said, no, he's only been on once. And I said, I'm sure you're wrong. It couldn't have been all the same show. No. What was I saying? Oh, yes, he was handsome and thin then.
The advice that he gave.
Yes. I wanted to call this book All Tributaries and No Stream, but they didn't let me.
The advice that Harry
Cohn gave me.
When you were about to leave,
he dropped my option, and he wanted me to go back to Chicago with my young husband. And he said, Shelley, I'm going to start crying. He said, if you're smart, you go back to Chicago with him. This town is really made of tinsel. You hang around here, sooner or later a good director is going to find the right part for you, and you're going to end up on a hill with your Oscars, alone. And he said, you go back to Chicago with him, and you'll have a lovely home and children and grandchildren, and he's what the post-war world's all about. He's going to be rich, and you'll be glad you made that decision. But I couldn't make that decision.
Well, we had an interesting discussion in the dressing room about that there is a certain role allocated when you have a unique talent, which you had, and really the decision wasn't yours, it was all made for you. Yes, by circumstances and fate and life.
I used to...
30 years later, you saw that man. The music means we'll be right back.
Okay.
If you were to pick out the most romantic moment in the book, with the most, let's take movie stars, because those are names they'll recognize. And you tell them in the book, so it's okay. One of the most...
They won't buy the book.
Oh.
Well, I had several rather extraordinary highs and lows in my life. And one of the really most romantic, I think, was when I met my daughter's father, Vittorio Gassman, who I did marry. And
good Vittorio.
Yes, Vittorio Gassman. I don't know whether you've seen any of his films here.
Oh,
yes,
who hasn't? He's marvelous.
He still looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, he couldn't speak English at all, and I couldn't speak Italian. And I wish we could have kept it that way. And for some reason, in those days, Rome was quite a small town, and he had a little car called a Mickey Mouse. It was called the Tupolino. They called it a Mickey Mouse. And he took me, somehow, went to the theater with somebody else, Frank Lattimore, and I ended up with him taking me back home. And I said, oh, Bella Bella Roma, which is about all I could say. And he showed me Rome, and they used to, in those days, I don't know if they still do, light up the ruins and the monuments and sculptures.
Yes.
And up until that moment, I never understood what was romantic about ruins. But after that ride, I did. We went along the Appian Way to the sea with the moon and the stars on the sea. It was
well, there's one
like
actor in it that was that's very romantic. There was another movie actor with whom you had Christmas Eve.
I'm in a picture with him now. I don't want to discuss it.
I won't. All right. Okay, we can't mention him. Okay, well, there was another movie actor.
Well, he'll read it. All right.
You were having a marvelous romance with, and then you found out that he was going back to his wife, and you got very shook up. So you went back to Marlon, who's not married. We can talk about that. To Marlon Brando.
Are you sure he isn't?
Who's that? Oh.
No, it wasn't
Marlon
quite
isn't
like
married,
that.
Is he?
Well, he's got a lot of children.
Oh. Well, he was, again. Well, then we can't talk about Marlon either.
No, well, wait a minute. I'll just tell you one thing. Do I have to say who it is?
If you want to.
I prefer writing it.
Yeah.
They're going to read it in the book. All right, I'll talk about it. there was a time in Burt Lancaster's marriage. He had 2 children, and he and his wife separated, and they were having... he was building up his career, so he was working constantly. This was quite a... So he and his wife separated, and I met him in New York, and we went to the second night of South Pacific, which was an extraordinary experience because it was a great show, and maybe it wasn't so, but I believed him, or maybe I wanted him to believe him. And for a while, it looked like he was going to get a divorce. And I really didn't want to be the cause of it, because he had these 2 children, and I was very guilty, these 2 small children. And as I began to know more about him, I realized he would never get a divorce and leave his children. And at the beginning of the romance was very exciting and happy, and he's a wonderful man and very, very handsome. Though, I mean, Al Pacino is great, and I mean, Dustin Hoffman are great actors, but when you watch Burt Lancaster walk, you got thrilled. He was so beautiful. I don't know, the kids nowadays just don't know what movie stars look like.
Yeah.
I mean, who can compare to Gable and Flynn and Charles Nelson Reilly?
I can think of
I love John Garfield.
I can think of
I know
a
you
couple.
did. His last
yeah, I can think of a couple.
Yes.
There's some really great-looking ones now.
Who?
Well, I like Bert's
Burt
looks.
Reynolds.
Yeah, yeah. And
I like
I'd like
Robert
to ask
Redford.
you about your romance.
No, you're thinking about your book. No, but... Listen, I am such an amateur. Since I read this book, I really felt, do you have a new love now? We'll get on to that.
No, but what I like about the
See how she
newspapers...
got right up on it?
About the newspapers, I always hear that Bert's going to marry somebody. This is years, about 6 or 7 or 8 years. And then the next thing I hear is that you're playing tennis again or going off to Europe or something like that.
I want to ask you about your book. Shelley, we're talking...
Okay.
We're talking about your book.
Well, shall I tell the end of that story?
Well, you can tell that one, or you can tell the one about John Ireland, which is really funny, because he was really separated.
My daughter doesn't know who John Ireland is, but I know who John Ireland is.
And his
yes,
ex-wife
he was.
came...
This is funny. Do you all know John Ireland? He was a wonderful actor in Red River and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And
great actor.
And I was quite young, and I was crazy about him. But I knew he wasn't husband material, and I had just had one divorce. And one day I got a call, and my mother picked up the phone and said, "It's Mrs. Ireland. It doesn't sound like his mother." And this lady said, "You're Shelley Winters?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I'd like to meet you at such and such a restaurant." And I went, and I said, "All right." I went there, and she said, "Well, you look a little young. Do you drive?" And I said, "Well, I took 3 tests. I think I'm going to make it on the 4th." And she said, "Well, look, John Jr. goes to a therapist, so forth and so on. This one goes to the orthodontist 3 times. The girl does this." And I'm looking, I said, "Why are you telling me these things?" She said, "Well, our divorce is going to be final in a month." And I was about 19, or I don't know. And I looked at her, and she said, "And I assume that you're going to marry John, and I'm going to Paris, and I'm going to leave I'm a painter, and I'm going to leave the children with John for about a year. And, I'll see them Christmas and the summer." But and I looked at her, my heart, went into my boots. And I said, well, I mean, here I was 19 years old, and I was going to have 3 children. The oldest was 14. And I said, well, we haven't discussed that. She said, "Oh, no, I know you have a very nice family, and you'll take and you'll take good care of the children." And I went home, and I was madly in love with him. And
wait a minute, before you left the luncheon, she took the little black book.
Calendar.
Put the calendar
and put it in my purse so I should know when you take the child to which doctor and orthodontist. And I got on the streetcar. There used to be a wonderful streetcar down Hollywood Boulevard, went through people's backyards. No, it's not there anymore. For 5 cents, you could go from Los Angeles Station to the beach. And it was like the ones in San Francisco. It was wonderful. Anyway, I got on the streetcar and went home in a daze. And my mother said, "Should I get a doctor? You look terrible." And I said, "No, Mom, go out to the pool. I want to think." And a man called up from a charity, from the United Jewish Appeal, and said, "Would you go to Denver for us?" I'd just been in 2 pictures, and be an MC at a thing that somebody famous like Danny Kaye was supposed to have done it. And he's sick, and could you do that? And I said, "Could I leave tonight?" he said, well, why? And he said, it isn't until Sunday, the affair. I said, don't you need a lot of people around this time of year for these kind of affairs? I could give you the next 3 months. I'm really funny. And I've got 3 evening gowns.
3 evening.
And I disappeared from Hollywood for 3 months.
Sure, and got out of that romance.
Yeah, but he wasn't too sad. He married Joanne Drew. He did All the King's Men. Yeah, and so he didn't suffer.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with Ladies in Black in a moment.
Bob Osborne has a compliment for Shelley Winters, or a little
Yes.
story for Shelley Winters.
A compliment, I think, is that I wanted to say to Shelley, which I have never said, is that one indication of Shelley Winters and why I think she's the giant that she is in the business is the fact that she supports the movie industry. I was at the Academy Awards this year, and there was only one major star that showed up at the awards that was not either involved in the show or a nominee, and that was Shelley Winters.
Oh, yeah.
She is there, she shows up, and supports the industry, and I think that's very important.
Well, you know,
supports
I want to
causes
say something about that. No, but that's important. You know, everyone goes to Cannes because they sell the pictures there. I mean, they give out awards and pretend that's what it's about. But it really is selling films. Now, I can't understand people blackballing their industry that's given them so much support and made stars out of them. And the whole, you know, if you're an American film star, you're a film star all over the world.
Right.
Exactly.
And this nonsense about the competing in different roles. Well, people, you know, Oscar members, I mean, Academy Award members vote. And you vote usually for, if there's 5 people nominated, you vote just like they did in the beginning for somebody who has a body of work. You know, if there's a choice between 2 people, you say, well, they were great in this picture and great in that picture and great in that.
And they just
so you
missed
vote for
last
them.
year, so...
That's right. And with all these people saying, well, I don't go to the Oscars, I don't support the Oscars, or they, well, they go to Tehran, and they go to San Paulo, and they go to Cannes, and Italy has one, and Berlin has one. Why are they picking on the Oscars, you know? And in fact, on my license plate says, for Oscar, which means for Oscar.
Good.
I mean, it just drives me crazy.
Well, I admire that a lot, and
it.
you should be complimented on that, supporting the industry.
I agree. I support my industry.
I know you
television.
do.
And there's a fellow who's on the show now who's done quite a number of television shows. He did a motion picture recently with James Coburn, who came out on stage and had such glowing things to say about it, which is very nice for a young actor.
He's going to be a big star.
I think he is, too.
Yeah.
He's been on our show many times before, but today is his birthday. Please welcome Bruce Boxleitner. Anything really special about this birthday that we should know?
Yes, I've turned 30 now. I can't be trusted, and
That's true.
I'm about to be a father.
Oh, that's lovely.
In about 6 weeks.
That's beautiful.
Now, he looks like a movie star is supposed to look.
He is beautiful, isn't
Thank
he?
you.
Yeah. His wife.
Going good for you already on your
I
birthday.
get the look already.
Oh, but they tell me that your birthday is celebrated like a wedding. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yes,
There are parties
it was
and
a
parties.
whole weekend.
Oh,
I
sure.
had quite a, my wife gave me a surprise party that was a real surprise.
You didn't want to go.
No, I didn't want to go. No, I'll tell you, she took me to this thing called the Renaissance Fair. Me and another couple went. And
she's about to have a baby?
yeah, and she was hiking around these mountains and everything. And about 2 hours there, she says, I'm starting to get cramps. And yeah, and I'm going, oh, I was having a great time, you know. I said, all right, well, let's go home. And I walked through the front door, and there's 30 people or so there yelling, surprise, you know. And I had no idea.
You like surprises?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We just finished the party a little while ago.
Oh, did you really? A minute ago? Well, it's funny, we're having another party right now.
Another party.
We'll be right back. Evita, the story of Eva Perón, is one of the biggest successes on Broadway and in Los Angeles. Standing room only since the day it opened, and one of the reasons for its tremendous success out here is this young lady who's with us today. Please welcome Loni Ackerman.
How glad the many millions of Harry, Joes, and Williams would be to marry me. But you had such persistence, you wore down my resistance. I fell, and it was swell. You're my big and brave and handsome Romeo. How I won you, I will never, never know. It's not that you're attractive, but oh, my heart grew active when you came into view. I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie, all the day and night time. Hear me sigh, I never had the least notion that I could fall with so much emotion. Could you cool? Could you care for a cunning cottage we could share? The world will pardon my mush, 'cause I have got a crush, my baby, on you.
Loni Ackerman is going to cook fish cake.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a retrospective on Shelley Winters' works on her life by Robert Osborne. Well, this girl not only cooks on the stage at the Schubert Theater here in L.A., in Evita, in which she plays lead, but she's a very good cook at home, too. But
Well,
you're making a very difficult dish.
Actually, it's not that difficult. It sounds difficult, but they're just like little meat pies. You just put everything together in the frying pan. You mix it up, and then it's the rolling.
Yeah.
The rolling out of the dough.
The fellas could start that.
Sure.
Sure, you want to do it? Come on, Charles. What do we do?
You just
You
roll
go
it
like
up.
this and you roll it out?
A little of this on there.
There's a
How do you
hair.
do it? There's a hair in there.
Here we go.
I'll stir it.
Throw some in.
What we have in here so far, we have
More than that you put?
Well, you only have one rolling.
we have 8. Shall I tell them what we've got here, Lonnie?
Huh?
We've got. I'll tell them.
Great. Oh yeah. How much?
How much of
We
this?
have here 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2 sticks of sweet butter. Oh, that's the pastry. What they have is 2 sticks of sweet butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese, 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream, and 2½ cups of flour, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay?
Great. Oh, it looks like a pizza.
Somebody told me that cayenne pepper cures you of arthritis.
Oh, really? Let's put some in here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Put some in. This has 4 tablespoons of sweet butter and 2 to 3 tablespoons
Oh, it's great.
of sour cream. Woo! Boy, that's a whole calf. Okay, 2 chopped onions and 3/4 of a cup of chopped
Mommy, you want it
mushrooms.
thinner than this? Look.
No, that's
wait.
We
great.
chopped up
We'll
the
make another
mushrooms
one?
and the onions.
You have to make a circle.
Oh, a circle.
I-
Oh.
Okay, make a circle.
No, that's what we're gonna make this one.
Two of
because
them?
You can't cook it when it's
Lonnie.
hot, huh?
Okay.
2, great. Okay.
I'm telling them about the
$1
filling group.
Oh, wait, now we need some parsley.
Got more here.
Let me tell you,
Parsley.
Got you covered.
the first thing we did was we browned the onion, the chopped onion, and then we brown the mushrooms, and now we're browning the meat, and we're adding, what are we adding? We're adding a little cayenne pepper to it.
Yeah, cayenne, a little paprika, a little parsley, some dill,
Some dill.
That much?
Yeah.
That's great.
Great. All of it?
Terrific.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
no,
fine.
that's great.
That's great.
And which is the salt?
One that says S is salt.
Little salt. Salt
Look
to
how
your
beautiful,
taste.
Mommy.
Oh, that's great.
You like this, huh?
Have you ever cooked
And a little pepper.
Have you ever cooked like this in your kitchen or on television before?
No, never. I've dreamed of cooking on the Dinah Show.
Did you really?
Yeah, no, it's true. I
It's
mean,
going
you
to be a
can
nightmare. You'll see.
you have to ask my husband.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah.
I have
Sure.
to tell you on the air that you and my father have the same birthday.
Oh, how
March
nice.
1st.
We're Pisces.
Yeah.
He's got to be a wonderful person.
He is. It's great.
How many will this serve?
It should make 24, 89. If you stretch it.
Not 24 people. You mean it's going to make 24 little...
Ready to go. That's great. Okay,
This
now
is brown. This is
done.
ready. Okay, so
Put
we have
that
to...
in here.
You let this cool.
Yeah, just put it in the
Four of
bowl.
us.
We let it cool.
You want more, Mommy?
That's okay.
No?
It's great. Okay, now after this is, well, you don't have to let it cool. These are 2 hard-boiled eggs chopped up. Mmm, that's great.
Oh, yes.
It's delicious. It's not too expensive either.
No.
You got to think of those things nowadays.
By
You're
all
darn right.
means.
This is a very small amount will serve a large group
Yeah.
of people. Did Hal Prince ever...
Yes, he did. In fact, I made about 150 of these for New Year's Eve when we were rehearsing the show. Hal and everybody, all the refugees from New York were out here. Before I forget, I think, what is
How
that,
much
about
sour
half a
cream?
cup?
Looks about a half a cup of sour
About a
cream.
half a cup of sour cream. No?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's about
great.
a half a cup.
And you just mix that up. And we decided we would have a New Year's Eve party.
Uh-huh.
And so about a week and a half before the party, I made all of these piroshki, and I froze them, not knowing that when you freeze them, they stick together.
Oh.
And then the night of the party, I tried to separate them about 10 minutes before people were coming to bake them. And they were all coming apart. I mean, the meat was coming out, and I almost had a nervous breakdown. I took them and I started throwing them at the wall. And my very calm Filipino husband said, "No, no, no. You know, you just." Oh, I just heard him laugh back there. He said, "Put them in the oven all together, and they'll start to come apart naturally." And I said, "No, they won't," which we do. We often fight.
Yeah.
And but I listened to them, and of course they all came out, and they worked very well, and then Hal Prince came in, hadn't eaten for like 2 days, and devoured about 20 of them.
Yes, I can
So-
see why.
Well, we hope.
Yeah. No,
I'm
but
getting
Hal
hungry.
Prince, Hal Prince didn't take you for Evita in the New York company.
No, the first time he wouldn't see me, he thought I was too comedic. He did, yeah, he wouldn't see me.
Yeah.
He wouldn't,
Well,
I couldn't get an audition. And I guess when he came out here, he wanted to cast it out here. Well, you know.
But now your husband is an actor.
He was the Crown Prince and the King and I in the
Oh.
film.
Oh,
Remember
terrific.
Patrick A'Arte?
See.
I saw that 5 times.
Me too, that's when I fell in love with him.
Oh, really? Oh, I love that.
I tried to sing that song to him, but he makes me so nervous that's why I went a little haywire.
I have dreamed. That one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You could sing that to him. You don't get the hiccups on stage. What was that?
That's a fear I had. Actually, it only started with this show. When I came out on the balcony, I think it was dress rehearsal, for some reason, I just started thinking, wouldn't it be really crazy if I got the hiccups and had to give this great political speech? But it's true. And then all of a sudden, then Patrick had a terrible fit of hiccups the other day, and it just brought it back to memory of the horrible nightmares that people have.
Fears. What are some of your other fears?
Well, as a dancer, I basically consider myself a dancer and not a singer, because that's what I've had the most training as, but no one refused to admit that I'm a
This is so
dancer. I guess they're trying to tell me something.
This is so
Oh, yeah, we gotta do
discouraging.
this.
Can you imagine in our day, look at these kids act, they sing, they're great dancers. It's
Yeah.
sickening.
Yeah, isn't it? You were a great dancer. You just couldn't put 2 steps together.
Well, I could put 2, but not 3.
Not 3. 3 can.
We can do this.
That's
Oh,
Phil.
Haven't you put 2 teaspoons of water? 2
No,
teaspoons of...
that goes
no, that's
after.
later.
That's
Oh,
on the
okay,
top.
this mixture cooled because otherwise you can't work
Put a
with
little
it.
hot stuff in it.
Well,
Why?
no,
Then you
because
won't be able to handle it.
You won't be able to handle it.
Because you got to. Okay, now what
We
you have
won't
to
be
do.
able to eat it.
Well, no, they got a
no,
finished
wait.
one. They
No,
got
don't
a...
tell.
about
We're supposed
eating
to
it later.
pretend that
Oh,
it,
we
that
do
it's
this every
okay.
day,
Oh,
Mommy.
Okay, now what you do is you put a tiny bit, depending on the size of the
Cutter?
little pizzas. That, Yeah. Okay. and you just flip it together. Actually, these could even be, you know, they're like Oriental also, but you just fill it with pork dim sum.
It's like ravioli, it's like kreplach, it's like wonton.
Wontons.
It's like, but everybody has its own
pies.
version of a meat pie.
Yeah, so that's what it looks like. Empanadas.
Sure.
If you're boycotting the Olympics, you call them
And then you-
wonton.
Wonton, yes.
What's the matter, Mommy?
Something
This
happened
is
to that
glaze?
egg. This is a glaze.
Just
And-
on TV,
and you bake
keep
it?
smiling and
And
just
then you
keep
bake
going.
it, okay.
Julia Child would have been dead 20 years ago. You smile and keep going.
Okay, then you put it on
There's a hair, you don't mention it. It's the smallest thing.
Well, then you
Cooking on
put it
TV.
on a tray without the bowl of powder, and you decorate it nicely with a fork. You know, like you make little an edge.
We
an
get a
edge.
fork.
Oh, you have a fork.
No, it's not fork.
No, okay. So you pretend you make a little edge.
That's right.
Then you have a knife.
This could be the last time.
Yeah, and then you have to make a slit so they don't explode in the oven.
Exactly.
these are
so
gonna
the steam
explode.
comes
These
out.
are going to explode.
What's the temperature?
400 until they get brown.
Until they get brown.
Golden,
We have,
not black, just golden.
we have a gorgeous.
Some of mine burned up in
Look
New
how
Year's Eve.
beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Now she did those earlier, and you cut the little sharp.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, girl. Now tell the
Lonnie?
truth. No,
Okay,
really,
no, we
you can. You
always
can tell the
do.
truth. Sorry, my husband always does.
Marvelous.
Yeah, that's all right.
I mean, that's a winner. Better than the fondue last week. That was awful.
That is good.
I'm not bad.
She likes her cooking.
Very good.
Oh,
It's lovely.
yeah.
Listen, you would have, if you hadn't had the job before when he ate these, Hal Prince would have just for backstage.
Yeah, that's a bribe for the next show.
Oh, sure.
In honor of Sweeney
Now you
Todd,
use
little
these
meat
for
pies.
Oh, my.
Hors
Loni Ackerman just gave us a delightful treat, and not only with her singing, which is beautiful, and her sense of humor, which is delightful.
You know, she doesn't play matinees. Isn't that a wonderful thing to be a star of that
No.
magnitude?
No, you've been trained to do 8 shows a week.
Yes, and-
so
Yeah.
have I. It's you feel guilty that you're not doing
but
8.
the role is so taxing. That's
No,
wonderful.
it's fun. It's just, I mean, I have someplace to go at night. It's great, and you know, Corona.
But that's what I'm saying. She's going to do the 8 of those now.
I
She
will.
wants
I
to
will.
go.
Hopefully, eventually.
Oh, I would never ask for an extra show if I were doing a role
No.
as tough as the one you're doing.
It's fun.
Yes, I did Virginia Woolf once, and I insisted on doing the matinees, and I ended up in the hospital. I was sure that I could do it.
yeah. It's so-
When it's a tough part, like say,
Yes.
your voice can go.
Yeah, that's the problem.
See, she sings the whole thing. It's sung. It's
Sings
an opera,
and dances
really.
while
Wonderful.
she's singing.
And changes her clothes a lot.
This lady mentioned Virginia Woolf. That is just one of the thousands of projects she's been involved with. Later on, I want to talk about going to acting school with Charles Lawton and those eminent other actors, people that we respect so. But Bob Osborne reminded us that you had done over 100 films and almost as many plays, and he
Where
has...
is the money?
Look at her.
I mean, you've got it all. You've got it all, and you're going to make $1 million on the book.
Yeah.
So Bob has looked into your career as a good reporter
Snuck
would.
into it a little bit, I think. We all know about A Place in the Sun, of course, and Night of the Hunter and Double Life. So what I thought we'd do is show you a few stills of some pictures that perhaps you've forgotten. Maybe you haven't.
Oh, I wanted to forget them.
But maybe you might have some interesting stories that you could relate about
Oh, well,
them.
let's
We have
see.
a lot.
Good
Can we
luck,
have
dear.
Now, do you remember what that's from?
No.
Phone call from a stranger?
Oh, yes.
Who is it?
Michael Rennie?
No, Craig Stevens.
Craig Stevens.
You look like Marilyn Monroe.
That was a film with Gary Merrill.
Oh, yes, all in an airplane, and I go back and I pretend to be Mary Martin or something like that, did I?
Something like that, yeah.
I sang in
But it's a good film. That's a good film.
Betty
Yes, it
Davis.
is. Yes, it was a pretty good film. It was. Gene Nicolesco directed it. But it'll all come back to me in a minute.
Okay.
Okay,
Got
can
another-
we have the next one? Now, do you remember that? That is you prone on a couch.
Oh, I'll tell you, that's Paul Newman, isn't it?
Right.
Well,
Now,
I was on the Merv Griffin show with Paul Newman, and we both are on the board of directors of the Actors Studio, and Merv Griffin said, have you two ever done a picture together? And I said, no. And Paul Newman looked at me and said, no? And I said, no. He said, what am I, chopped liver? We did a picture of Paul Newman with Paul Harper with you. I said, oh, that's right. And then I said, but I was drunk and asleep during most of the picture. And he said, you weren't really? I said, but I was playing it so intensely that I forgot.
Maybe you forgot where you left your paychecks half the time, too. That could be.
Yeah, how could anybody forget working with Paul Newman?
And it was an important film, too. Good film.
I don't know. I
Well, when
do
Errol
block
Flynn
things out
fights over
sometimes.
you forget those things.
Oh, no, but that was just a pretend thing, Errol. They did that. I was sort of a struggling young actress, and Errol Flynn and Clark Gable, well, you have to read the book. Errol Flynn gave me this party, and they pretended to be jealous of me.
Errol Flynn.
So they would be on, and they'd have a fight, but it turned out a disaster. You have to read the book. Oh, it was awful.
Okay, can we have the next one? Do you remember that?
No.
Cleopatra Jones.
Oh, was there? Who's the blonde girl?
I have no idea.
That isn't Cleopatra Jones.
I don't
Everybody
think it
was
is
black in it.
No,
I was the only white person.
That was Cleopatra
That could not be
Jones.
Cleopatra Jones.
We'll discuss this later. Could
Why don't we
have
go back to the kitchen?
That was, you know what, I think that's a patch of blue.
No, that was Cleopatra Jones.
Go back to that. Let's see. I want to remember. It
This
couldn't
is
be
good.
Cleopatra.
Now you've got your controversial
Okay.
show that
Yes,
you
that's
wanted.
right.
Yeah. That
Now,
is.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
No,
Shelley, trust me.
no, I had read it.
I've never
blonde.
lied to you. I've never lied to
But
you.
there was no other, I was the only white person in it.
Well, that's a mulatto, maybe, the blonde girl.
Trust me.
I mean, how do we
Trust
know
me.
these things?
That's just a picture from my living room where I was getting a foot
Probably.
massage.
Can we have the next one?
That was Paul Newman.
Do you remember that?
Dinah, how you
Yes.
made 2 movies?
That was Pete's Dragon at Disney.
Yeah.
Oh,
Disney.
my heavens.
Your
I
fir-
played a witch.
Boy.
There's a generation of kids who can see me and scream and run out of the room.
Okay. Shelley, now, do you remember that? That's
Frenchie.
Yes.
Yes, that was Marie Wilson, and I'm killing her.
A remake, wasn't it, of Destry Rides Again, I believe?
Yes, you're very good. Was it really Cleopatra Jones?
I have a still right here to prove it, Shelley.
Oh, boy.
Lisa Farringer tends to Shelley Winters' toes in the scene from Cleopatra Jones.
Yes, that's right.
It's like more of the Paul Newman nonsense.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Do you think you meant it would retire for a few years and rest?
Yeah.
Next, can we have the... Okay, that's Telly Savalas on the left. And that's you dancing sort of around a campfire. Do you remember?
Oh, that was with Burt Lancaster. It was called Scalp Hunters.
Right. Absolutely.
Interesting.
And that was several years after your romance with Burt Lancaster then.
Who?
Burt Lancaster, that you mentioned earlier.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
You,
Now, you're giving what for there to Anthony Quinn. Do you remember that film?
Yes.
wow.
Nobody Loves a Drunken Indian?
That's what it was called when they made it. But when they released it, it was called Flap.
Flapping Eagle.
Flap.
Flap?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Now,
He knows more about my life than I do, I think.
that is Hugh O'Brien that you're about to blast there, up in the mountains of one-word
Oh,
title.
in Canada.
Right.
Banff. Banff.
No, that wasn't the title.
No, oh.
God.
Oh, Saskatchewan.
You got
Saskatchewan.
it. Very good. Excellent,
yes,
excellent.
Saskatchewan.
With Alan Ladd, right? Alan Ladd.
I can name
But not in that
every-
still.
I can-
Okay, now this was a film, and notice over on the right-hand side, the young gentleman there.
Robert De Niro.
Right,
And that's Don Stroud.
right.
And if you go a little to the left,
Bob Walden.
by Robert Walden, and the other gentleman, Clint Kimbrough, is now director.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I helped cast that picture. It was called Bloody Mob, about Bob Barker. And I insisted on all those young men to be in it.
Well,
And,
good choices.
and they all became stars.
Yeah.
But you always do that. You're always taking young people, trying to put them in the front part of the camera. The interesting thing all the way through in the biography, her biggest problem was with the directors she would have. She'd say, I want you to try this fellow. He'd say, well, I'd like to have a name in here. And she would, I'd like to have him take me to
Oh,
the
I'll
famous...
tell you another quick story. You know, Raquel Welch I did a picture, the house is not a home. They never showed on television. I don't know why. And, it's about Polly Adler, that's why. And Raquel Welch had one line in it. And you could see in the rushes, she just jumped off the screen, that kind of beauty and face and film charisma. And she had one line, and she would always throw up. Talk about doing 2 takes. She never did. She got so upset she couldn't say this one line to Robert Taylor.
So nervous.
She was so nervous. And then after one day at lunch, she said, Shelley, I'd really like to be a movie star. How should I go about it? And I said, well, if I was you and looked the way you did, I think I would go to Europe and get on every cover. You'll get to know a photographer and get him to put you on every cover of magazines in France and Italy, and then you'll come back to America, big famous cover girl. So she married a photographer, went to Europe, did exactly. I was kidding, but she.
Good advice, though.
Yes,
Sure.
it worked for her.
Sure,
really
it worked. The different advice for different people, but the helping each other is something really kind of
Well,
lovely.
everybody
to hear
helped
about
me.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to have great confidence in your own talent to be able to do that, which you should have.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You like that. Loni Ackerman is a beautiful girl. She's funny, she sings, she dances, she acts, and she cooks, and she's going to sing another song. She is the star of Evita here in L.A. Please welcome back Loni Ackerman.
Don't know why, no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my man and I, we ain't together, keeps raining all the time. Life is bare, gloom and misery everywhere. Stormy weather, just can't get my poor self together. I'm weary all the time. Since he went away, the blues walked in and met me. If he stays away, oh, rocking chairs can't get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on. Everything I had is gone. Stormy weather, since my man and I, we ain't together, keeps raining all the time. Since he went away, the blues walked in and met me. If he stays away, oh, rocking chairs gonna get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on. Everything I had is gone. Stormy weather, since my man and I, we ain't together, keeps raining all the time, just raining all the
Some of the audience participants on Dinah and Friends will receive one of the following gifts. Magic Chef's 8-button convertible dishwasher. Convenience features include a signal center, energy saver, sanitizing functions, and 2 spray arms from the full line of Magic Chef home appliances. Put 'em up, America. It's home canning and freezing time with National Home Canning products. Watch for a display at your local supermarket. The Kodak Colorburst 250 instant camera with built-in electronic flash. Bright, brilliant color by Kodak that develops right before your eyes. And Otter Pops, the better-tasting freeze-and-eat ice pops in 6 delicious flavors. Otter Pops, the utterly fantastic treat for kids of all ages.
One reason they don't know is because nobody...
Thank you, Bruce Boxleitner. Thank you, Bob Boxleitner. Thank you.